If you missed the XRP pump, or if you just feel like you haven't maximized the market over the last few days, well then today I have the video for you, because in today's show, we are going to be unpacking what I believe the next big rotations are going to be after XRP. Clearly, we are now seeing altcoins performing really well. Technically, we are now back in a raging altcoin season, but there are specific coins which I think are going to outperform the rest of the pack. And in today's video, we are going to unpack exactly what they are. Firstly, I'm going to give you a market update which runs through the current state of Bitcoin and the altcoin market, unpacking the data behind the strongest price performers this week. Then we are going to move on to a utility focus section, looking at some of the utility coins that I think we are going to see performing really well as we see a capital rotation from XRP profits into these coins, and also speculative capital gambling on these coins as the next XRP. Then I'm going to get into the L1 trade. There is a layer 1 that right now I think is going to perform really well and is perfectly set up with the current environment, with utility performing really strongly to potentially outperform over the coming months, potentially 10 to 20xing this cycle. Then I'm going to talk about the AI trade, give you an update on AI, because I think there are some important points to cover there when we do talk about rotations. Obviously, AI is going to be in the frame here. Then I'm going to talk about Doge, because I think Doge also has a very interesting setup at the moment. And then lastly, we're going to discuss crypto gaming, which is already starting to catch a little bit of a bid over the past week. So it's going to be an alpha pack show. If you do enjoy content like this, make sure you click the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and hit that post notification bell so you don't miss a single video of the past few days and weeks. We've nailed some amazing trades. One of the coins that I discussed yesterday, which was CPOOL, absolutely exploded today. It's doing amazingly. Some of the AI coins that we've been talking about on the channel, like EMP and PINLINK, are all up massive numbers. I think EMP is now up like a 5x since I first mentioned it on the show last week. So we've been absolutely killing it. And if you do want to come be a part of the community for the early alpha, do hit that post notification bell and come be a part of the community. Now, let's begin with the market update, where I want to go through just a quick update regarding Bitcoin and where I think altcoin season is currently, where are we currently positioned in regards to alts. Bitcoin is actually looking quite good. It's breaking out of almost what seems to be like a bull flag on the 4-hourly. If you even go into the daily, you can see here the structure for Bitcoin actually looks quite nice, having those higher lows and the highs compressing into this flag here. I do think this could potentially be the setup that does take us to 100K and beyond. It seems like Bitcoin's coiling up a little bit. It's being slightly suppressed by altcoins outperforming. What usually happens is you will see potentially a sell-off on altcoins. Not a huge one, but definitely a notable one, as capital rotates back into Bitcoin for Bitcoin to have its next leg to the upside. That would likely result in a dominance bounce. And then you'll see that toing and froing of Bitcoin into alts and back into Bitcoin. Right now, it is firmly in the altcoin camp. In terms of price performance, alts have been really outperforming. Altcoin season index is actually the highest it's been since 2022. So this is the moment that we've been waiting for years. But I think at some point you will see Bitcoin have that strong leg to the upside. Not necessarily meaning alts will crash, just Bitcoin will outperform for a certain period. So I think the next leg of Bitcoin outperformance is probably going to start towards the end of the year. If you had to ask me what I think regarding altcoins, I think for the rest of this week, probably still going to be bullish in the altcoin camp, considering that Bitcoin dominance has had a breakdown. If you look at the money noodle and the dominance on the weekly, it has broken down. I think you may see a squeeze back into this level where Bitcoin outperforms, and then a final push down on alts, which will be your bigger altcoin season, potentially happening next year, right? So that's kind of my rough thinking around Bitcoin and altcoin outperformance. There's an interesting data point here, which I discovered thanks to Fajal's tweet, which basically summarizes where the market is sitting from an inflationary or a deflationary perspective. Basically, what it shows you is how loose monetary policy is. So Fajal here says financial conditions are now nearly as loose as they were during the 2021 frenzy. Keep dancing, but make sure you have your eye on the door for when the party ends. So you can see that the Chicago Fed National Financial Conditions Index, which, as I said, tracks monetary policy, and inflationary and deflationary economic aspects here is on the decline, and that does also line up with the increasing global liquidity that we've seen. So obviously you can track M2, which is the money index, but this is another index which I think you can add to your macro indicators, especially high time frame indicators, which can give you a bit of a gauge as to when bullish conditions are likely to begin or end. Right now, we are seeing this really acceleratory phase of the macro cycle where risk assets are performing really well. You're seeing rate cuts across the board, and this is resulting in this index decreasing. We're almost at 2021 levels, so just keep an eye on the momentum here. If we are in a downtrend, which we are, there's no reason to stop dancing while the music's playing. This can last for a matter of months. However, at some point, as we start to see this index uptick, that's when I would start to become a little bit more defensive and take some profits off the table. But look, right now, obviously you should be laddering out as you make crazy profits. If you've made big gains on coins, specifically some of the coins that I've been speaking about over the past couple of weeks, take some profits. I've been taking some profits over the last few days as well. But generally speaking, I'm trying to maintain the majority of my exposure to the market because I do believe that we still are in an aggressive phase for the market where you actually make most of your profits. I've been saying this the whole bull run, and now we're finally getting it. 80% of your gains are going to happen in the last 20% of the cycle. But for now, Bitcoin dominance breaking down, looking obviously quite bullish from an altcoin POV. Altcoin season index is now officially in that 90 plus territory for the first time since 2022. And Bitcoin isn't actually crashing amidst alts performing. It's going sideways, which is the perfect scenario for alt season when Bitcoin's either grinding up or going sideways and alts are outperforming, because that means we're still seeing net liquidity flow into the space. This is also exemplified via the general stablecoin index, which shows the aggregate amount of stablecoins in the market is now at an all-time high. That means there's more net liquidity coming into the space than exiting the space, which is a prerequisite for outperformance amongst alts. Ethereum also looks decent right now, which I think is an important thing when it comes to the altcoin cycle. I mean, we often, glaze over Ethereum because it hasn't been a fun asset to hold and it's not necessarily doing anything crazy. We've been more so focusing on other altcoins like AI, RWA that have obviously been performing really well. But having a strong Ethereum is still great for the altcoin market, specifically the on-chain Ethereum altcoins. And if you do look at the ETH chart right now, you could make the argument that ETH from a technical standpoint looks the best that it has all cycle. I mean, you've got ETH BTC at major support. You've got a possible regulatory regime shift for staking ETFs, which is obviously being triggered by the Trump administration, Trump inauguration. That easing regulatory environment is boding well for coins like XRP, but it also bodes well for Ethereum. You have Alt VM L2s launching soon. Base and virtuals are doing well. So Ethereum actually looks quite strong. So a $5,000 Ethereum, which I think we'll get through this cycle, at some point will, in my opinion, trigger that next crazy leg for altcoins, especially the on-chain alts, which a lot of which have been lagging. Like, I think centralized exchange alts so far have been the meta. The alts on Binance, Coinbase, Robinhood, these have been the ones that have been performing really well. To a lesser extent, OKX and Bybit. But if you do see ETH really increasing, that does increase the wealth effect on chain, because a lot of traders, Memecoin traders, utility traders on chain, their portfolios are denominated in ETH. That's also when you'll likely see the run of NFTs. So just thought I would touch on Ethereum and how it's looking good, because that is one thing that actually is really important for a true alt season. You could still have an alt season without ETH running, but that big crazy on-chain alt season where even things that aren't on centralized exchange pump, that happens when Ethereum actually outperforms. Hasaka here says, and this is a very interesting point that he makes, the top 10 coins at the peak of the 17 to 18 cycle were Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, BTC Cash, Cardano, NEM, Litecoin, Tron, Stellar, IOTA. 6 out of the 8, not counting Bitcoin and Ethereum, have been among the top performers of the past few weeks. Time is a flat circle. It's a really interesting point that the top 10 that were performing really, really well in 2018 is basically still the top 10 in 2024 in terms of outperformance over the past few weeks. Now, obviously, there are a bunch of new verticals which are doing well. Like, we didn't have AI or AI agents exploding. We didn't really have the RWA sector exploding. We didn't have certain other, meme coins obviously perform really well, and other sectors exploding. But in terms of the top 10 itself, like the structural makeup of that top 10, it is interesting that the coins that were pumping then are pumping now. And I think this comes down to the fact that they have really loyal communities. They're tried and tested, and they've just got a lot of mind share. So when, retail jumps back into the market, they are gravitating towards a lot of these coins. They're not really speculating so much on new coins, although new coins are doing well. They're jumping back into things like, XRP, Cardano, Litecoin, Tron, Stellar, IOTA. Litecoin's probably not performing as well, but yeah, 6 of the 8 have actually outperformed. And you can see here, if we do look at the price data on Velo, the trend is pretty clear, with your strongest gainers being XRP, IOTA, HBAR, even some of the DeFi stuff, Curve doing well, Tron doing well again. So the same coins that were around then are still the ones pumping now, which I think has caught a lot of people off guard. And even part of my thesis was that, when retail comes back in, they would bid memes and certain coins, from fresher narratives. And although we have seen that, like memes have been doing really, really well, this like really normie contingent, which seems to have come in through XRP over the last week, they obviously haven't been going straight for the memes. They've been going for XRP and these utility-based coins. So it's forced me to kind of shift my outlook, at least for the short term. Do I still think memes perform well later in the cycle? Yes. Do I still think some of these other newer narratives that have come to fruition will perform well later in the cycle? Yes. I think everything will end up rotating, right? But definitely the stuff I'm most bullish on right now is the more utility-focused stuff. And look, luckily we have been positioning in a lot of that stuff, and a lot of those coins are really outperforming. Even like the AI coins, which we've been positioning in for the past few weeks and months, the, deep in coins, RWA coins, all of these are exploding. Like look at EMP. It hit $400 today. We called this in the Discord. If you go into the alpha channel at $72, that's a 5.4x so far. You can see PIN. We called this last week in the alpha channel as well. This is already up at 3x. So we have been hitting some massive, massive gains. If you don't want to be a part of the Mars Club for the early alpha, there is a link in the description below. By the way, I also did give these on the YouTube. Some people are commenting, I'll stop giving all the, gainers to the Mars High Club. Well, I post in the Mars High Club first because the members deserve that. They're part of the community, and all of my live research is posted in the alpha channel. But I did mention Imperial here on the YouTube channel as well, around $80. And I mentioned PINLINK as well, around, I think, 60-ish cents. And now it's $1.40. So everyone has a chance to get in to these coins. And congrats if you did, because the market's been really, really rewarding us. CPOOL, CHEX, RWA tokens I've spoken about for a long time are also performing really, really well. So we were prepared for this even without knowing what the rotation would be. So yeah, if you do want to become part of the Mars High Club, I highly recommend joining. Now's the perfect time because we are on a really, really hot streak. I think 16 of our last 17 calls have been profitable. Multiple have been 5 to 6x profit gains. And we've got some new tokens that I'll be revealing in the next 48 hours in the Mars High Club as well. You guys know I've been going really deep into research. I've even been tweeting less, you've probably noticed, because the main thing I'm spending my days on now is research and building a bigger research team. I think I've got 4 or 5 people now working just researching new coins and upcoming rotations and narratives. So it's been a really good past few weeks because we've been able to like hit the nail on the head with a lot of these new trends, which are obviously shared in the Discord first, and then of course make their way into YouTube as well, which is great for you guys because we've been able to hit some massive profits. But look, if you haven't hit massive profits, or if you missed XRP, stop focusing on the coins that you missed and start focusing on the opportunities in front of you. I'll be going through them today. We're going to be talking about the rotations that I think are yet to come, or maybe they've already started playing out, but rotations that I think have a lot more juice left in them. Because remember, you're only really one trade away from catching a big gainer that can change your life or change your portfolio. I did not think a few months ago even I would be in this position where, a few of the coins that I've picked have done, 5, 10x gains. And even though I may have invested in, let's say, 50 coins this cycle, just a few of them have made a massive difference for me personally in my portfolio. And you can do the exact same thing. You don't need to hit every single coin as a winner. You didn't need to hit XRP. You didn't need to hit ALGO. You didn't need to hit HBAR. All you need is a couple very strong plays that you have a lot of conviction in, just like we've had conviction in EMP, just like we've had conviction in CHEX, and they've been performing really well, just like I've had conviction in Lucky, and that's performing well. I had conviction in Pepe, and that did 100x. Like ONDO, we had conviction in, shared that at 20 cents. Now, I think $1.70. Like Mantra was a massive trade for us as well, although I sold some of that too early. It's still one of my biggest trades of the cycle. So those are just some examples of plays that, like, there's only a handful of them maybe, but they can make huge gains for your portfolio if you're in the right coins, and then the rest of your portfolio can go sideways, right? But at least you've covered your bases on some really strong coins. And how have I been able to actually pick some of these coins? Because the psychology behind it is important. I've really thought about narrative first in the market. That's something that's been consistent across my content the entire year. I really like to think of, okay, what are the trends which are going to take the market forward? Because I think trends in general tend to dictate the market directionality. Like, yes, there are a few specific alts that can do well within their own niche. Like today I'll speak about an L1 that's really its own niche that I think is going to do really, really well. But these are like the outliers. The majority of the time, your sectors, so memes, AI, RWA, these are like leading sectors where you don't really need to overcomplicate it. Just pick quality stuff throughout that sector, have a mix, right, of large caps that are set for maybe less upside, but are showing signs of being the leaders whenever that narrative outperforms, and then stack some, riskier altcoins within that narrative as well. Like I spoke a couple weeks ago about my AI barbell portfolio of how I was holding like, Tau, Spec, NIA with maybe 70% of my capital, but then 30% was being deployed into this riskier stuff that has huge upside. Potentially coins, like EMP, potentially coins like DEAI, Neural, etc. And a lot of those have now done 4 or 5x's because we had exposure to that risky portion as well. So it's all about narrative. If you can pick the right narratives in the market, you can be patient, you can DCA on dips, and as long as you size it correctly, so, have exposure to leaders, but also have exposure to some of the riskier stuff as well, you can put yourself in a really good position to actually catch these winners and outperform the market, even if you don't hit the right rotations all the time. And with meme coins, for example, they might not be popping right now, but there are still some memes that I'm accumulating because I think in a few months when the market resets, and maybe not even a few months, maybe a few weeks, right, and new narratives start to outperform, maybe XRP and utility will come down again, and then some of these like memes will start outperforming again. It all ebbs and flows. So you have to be just building the best portfolio that you can at any given time to take advantage. But now let's focus on utility, because I still think for the next few weeks, that's where the market focus is going to be, and probably still where the biggest gains in the market are going to be. So when we talk about utility, I think a very valuable thing to do is actually track how a lot of these coins are performing on a relative basis using a correlation matrix versus XRP. Because XRP is the coin that's had billions of dollars of capital flowing into it over the past week. XRP is the coin that's gotten a bunch of retail interested in crypto again, especially like those normies, so to speak, from last cycle, right? So on DeFi Llama, you can create these custom matrix, which I think are really valuable because you can look at certain coins and how they're performing versus XRP. So if we take a look here, you can see that AVAX and Link are really correlated. Link's been a trade that I'm currently in and I'm bullish on because of just the correlation it's showing versus a lot of these like utility coins. AVAX as well has showed a pretty strong correlation to XRP, 0.92% on the correlation metrics. A lot of the RWA coins, because they're also viewed as like TradFi coin trades, are actually really correlated as well, specifically ONDO and CHEX, CPOOL and OM to a lesser extent, but they still are correlated. And then of course you have HBAR, ALGO and Atom all performing well alongside XRP. So this was really valuable data for me to look into, and you can actually, if you go into DeFi Llama and do it yourself, just Google DeFi Llama correlation matrix, you can put in your own coins and you can replace those coins and see how they're performing versus a coin like XRP. And for me that's really valuable because if you're trying to pick performers based on what could the next rotation be, you want to be picking performers that have actually shown the propensity to follow the trend. The general trend being like, these TradFi coins, these XRP style utility coins. And if you can actually do that, then you're going to put yourself in a strong position to pick the next rotation. Now, there are a few coins I'm still heavily positioned in that I still think have a lot of upside. Clearpool's one of them. It's pumping massively today. So maybe you'll need to wait for a little bit of a cool down before you get a new entry. But this one, I think, given the fact it's just gone into price discovery, this can reprice to $1 billion quite quickly. And it's been an amazing trade for us. Obviously, in the Discord, I posted about it for the first time on Saturday, the 5th of October. If you go into the chart and look at Saturday, the 5th of October, it was down here at 13-14 cents. I did my first YouTube show about it here at 16 cents as well. And no matter if you bought on the Discord or on the YouTube show, you would have made between 160 and 180% already on CPOOL. So congrats to everyone that's in that. It's one of my biggest RWA bags and it's been an amazing performer. But I really don't think this is going to slow down in terms of momentum. Obviously, you can look for these pullbacks to buy, but I think there's just so much coming for them, which put them in a really strong position with their, Ozian launch, with a bunch of stuff as well that's coming, and the fact that they're one of the most established protocols in the RWA space. They're very well positioned, I think, to catch a bid. Considering, you look at Mantra, you look at ONDO, they've performed so well, and they're all at multi-billion-dollar FDVs. Like ONDO's at a $15 billion FDV, which is absolutely insane, and this is at 390. So there's just so much. It's 390 million. So there's so much upside left, just on a relative basis. And I think RWA, I really believe that, with Trump coming in and with this current XRP utility narrative and with potential regulatory changes, the environment is really well set up right now for RWA coins to outperform. I really think it's the strongest narrative in the market right now. If you look outside of maybe XRP and then Link, ALGO, HBAR, and then one of the coins I'll speak about later also is probably in that category as well. But RWA is undeniably there. This is a great post from ResDegen. He says, we're currently seeing some strong pumps in the RWA sector with ONDO and OM, but I still think CPOOL remains one of the most undervalued. And those two are just showing what's yet to come. Repricing mainly due to, one, the transition from a DeFi app to an RWA-focused L2 infrachain, Ozian. If you actually look at Mantra, it is an infrastructure blockchain as well, with an aggregated liquidity layer, Oxygen, and native stablecoin that generates real yield. 2, the evolving regulatory landscape for DeFi. 3, the team and expertise. Joint venture with HEX Trust, a leading institutional custodian backed by 88 mil plus Series B funding, and a bunch of other things that they've also implemented, strategic partnerships, etc., to build out the ecosystem. So CPOOL's one I still think is going to perform, still one of my top RWA picks. Now, CHEX is another that I think could run into potentially the $10+ range. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you actually look at their pipeline, there's just so much to come from CHEX, and there's just such a big opportunity in the RWA space. So if you want to understand what CHEX does a little bit better, basically the way to think about them is the Shopify of RWA. So if you look at Shopify's market cap, it's around $141 billion. So Trim here says, the Shopify of RWA is still a $10 coin on sale for just 50 cents, but not sure how much longer the sale is going to last. Someone said, you might be late to CHEX, you've missed it, it's already pumped a lot. Trimbot says, you're honestly not late at all. In fact, you're actually really early. Most people have never heard of it. True, apart from maybe my viewers and my community. Minimal marketing, true. They're not even on major exchanges yet. And not many big creators are talking about them, maybe aside from me and a couple others now that are starting to, pick it up. But also keep in mind how early we are to RWA. It's not just narrative. Trillions of dollars of assets need to be tokenized. And that's the key point here. Regarding CPOOL, but specifically CHEX, given the way that it's constructed, trillions of dollars need to be tokenized. And with the regulatory environment now favoring DeFi a bit more with Trump, and now with, Larry Fink clearly able to push further into this asset tokenization narrative and propel that and push it for his own gain, I think you are going to see massive demand for asset tokenization. And this is already increasing rapidly. We already saw CHEX the other day announce a 250 mil asset tokenization. So billions of dollars are going to flood in, trillions potentially, into the asset tokenization space, because there's just massive opportunity there. And it's really only starting to ramp up now. All that other stuff earlier in the year was fluff. That was all pre-positioning. It can only really happen now that the Republicans are in. So if trillions are going to be tokenized, let's just say, 100 billion or whatever number you want to put it at, if you want to be more conservative. Where are those assets going to be tokenized? Well, you actually need a service provider to convert that asset and a licensed service provider from a real asset, whether it be real estate, bonds, even all sorts of asset commodities, etc. How do you bring them on chain? Well, you need someone to actually facilitate that with the infrastructure, the expertise, and the regulatory requirements. And that's where CHEX being the Shopify for RWA argument comes in, because just like you create a website using Shopify in the back end, you can actually tokenize assets using Chintai in the back end, and they're regulated by the Singapore Monetary Authority. So they're going to be a big beneficiary of this new flow of asset tokenization, because they are the infrastructure which is powering a lot of it. So for me, that means, look, even though we are at 50 cents and even though we have pumped a lot, there's so much upside to run much higher from a fundamental perspective, just due to the huge opportunity in that space. And I think RWA in general really appeals to the TradFi contingent of the market, and maybe even the normies that have bidded utility because that have bidded XRP, sorry, because it's a utility coin and because it has real partnerships. Like, are they going to feel more comfortable like bidding a meme coin right now, or maybe rotating some of their profits into other utility stuff like CHEX, which has that market, like CPOOL, even like ONDO and Mantra, and of course other utility coins. But I just think narrative wise, it's the perfect time, and everything's kind of lining up at once. I did say at the start of the week as well on the show on Monday to watch CHEX as a top trade this week at 40 cents. It's already at 52 and probably goes higher. And CPOOL's another one that I've spoken a lot about, and this will also probably goes higher. So yes, you may have missed the great entries that I gave in the Discord and on the YouTube, but I still think there's still good entries to come for you if you have a slightly longer term time horizon. Like a lot of coins in the market, I also think we just need to generally think a bit bigger about. Like I think we do have PTSD, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, from 2021 where we're kind of scared of losing our gains, and you should definitely lock in some profits as time goes on. Like I am, incrementally taking profits out, right? But you also need to think a bit bigger sometimes, because these like narratives can be so powerful that when they really reach the normie crowd, and XRP is a good example of this, they can go so much higher than you ever imagined. And you really don't want to sell yourself short on that, because that's where like the biggest gains in the market are going to be. Another one, touching on the final RWA point here until we get into the L1 trade that I want to discuss, is PINLINK. I think PINLINK's unique because it crosses multiple utility narratives. You've got RWA, DePIN, and AI. It's got a very strong trilogy behind it in terms of narrative power. Basically enables you to tokenize a DePIN asset on PINLINK, and in exchange you receive an RWA token which represents your asset. So this is great for capital efficiency, because you can go and you can now unlock that asset and do what you want with it, which means you can borrow against it, you can trade it, you can do all sorts of things, you can speculate on other tokens, etc. So this is a very cool model that we are now starting to see, especially with the whole DePIN problem that I've discussed in previous shows, that can actually help unlock liquid staking and capital efficiency for people with DePIN assets. So there's also a genuine enterprise use case for this, but even beyond the tech side, even beyond what it's doing fundamentally, I just think the narrative is perfectly aligned right now. Also, you have big credits like Becker on board, and that can only help. So PINLINK's been an amazing performer. Once again, called this in the Discord at 50 cents, now $1.50, performing really, really well. Yeah, you're going to see pullbacks. Yes, if you're up a large amount, you should be taking profits. But I think generally speaking, if you zoom out, there is a lot more upside on this and just the RWA sector in general. So I suggest everyone thinks bigger in crypto. But, don't use thinking bigger as an excuse to be an idiot. Like, I've been taking profits over the last week. I took profits on Sunday, and some of those coins are up even more now. Like, I even took profits on my ONDO position, from 20 cents, and even my angel investment that I made before that. And I sold a bit early. Like, maybe I took too many profits around $1, and now it's $1.70. So you're not always going to hit the top of these coins, but you do have to gradually take profits over time, or else you will end up like 2021 where you just don't make any money and round trip a lot of your gains. Like I did a lot of that last cycle. I round tripped a lot of positions, so it's all learning, having a mix of bullishness and conviction in certain coins, and also knowing when to go a bit more aggressive with the profit taking. They're very, very important skills. Now let's talk about the L1 trade. So there is an L1 which I discussed a couple of days ago, which is already performing well, but I think has a lot more upside. And this is a very good post from Ansem, which I think really summarizes a big opportunity in the market. So he says, if you can determine the largest shifts in these two lists, so the lists he's giving here are the L1s, over the next 6 months, you can make $1 million or potentially more, depending on your sizing, of course. Sol Trade 2023 to 2024 was correctly identifying that it would close gap in DEX volumes plus TVL and mindshare. Question is, what is the same trade in 2025? Now, I think there's probably a couple L1s here that could perform really well. Like Phantom's certainly a candidate with Sonic. Avalanche has a lot of gaming launching. Sui obviously has a thriving ecosystem and community. Base is clearly very strong. And there'll be alts within these ecosystems that do really, really well. But I can't help but feel like the L1 that could be the dominant L1 of 2025 is already in front of us. And I think it could be hyper liquid. So as Taran points out here, the last few cycles have had one or two multiple winning L1 trades, Luna and Sol, AVAX last cycle, Phantom as well. It's probably hyper liquid this cycle TBH. And it's interesting because There are just so many dynamics at play, which I recommend you do a bit more research into it, because I won't have time to go really deep today. I did a video which probably got a lot of you guys an airdrop maybe 3 or 4 months ago on actually farming Hyperliquid. But if you want to read through this post by CryptoRef Codes, you can read their whole summary. It's amazing. It really goes into why the deflationary aspect and the product market fit for Hyperliquid put it in a good position to perform well token-wise. One of the factors that I want to point out is just how they executed the airdrop. Doing a fair launch, not having all that VC capital dumping. I think it really puts tokens in good stead for outperformance. It's one of the reasons why I think Grass, the AI coin, will also perform well. So Hyperliquid, I did talk about 2 days ago when it dropped down to 0.07, so 7 cents. I said it would be an opportunity, and now you're already seeing the price, rebounding. But I do think this can be a coin that can push much, much higher, potentially into the tens of billions of dollar range. Like if you look at Hype right now, at its valuation, even though it's up 35% today, it's still valued, I think, reasonably at $4 billion. If you don't know what Hype does, it's basically its own chain, so its own L1, but it's basically fully optimized for on-chain trading, and you're seeing a lot of these agents actually using Hyperliquid. So it's interesting because it becomes an L1 bet. It's kind of doing what Say was built to do. Like Say is supposed to be like a performant blockchain, and Injective is supposed to be like a performant blockchain that optimized for trading on chain. But Hyperliquid has, I think, done like the best job at this, and probably the best job at executing their tokenomics out of all of them. So product market fit is clearly there. As I said before, AI agents are moving towards a future where they're all trading on chain, and it's very easy to plug into Hyperliquid. Like Spectral's already using Hyperliquid, so all its agents trade on Hyperliquid. So you're seeing this trend. You're also seeing just a lot of traders that want to trade on DEX picking Hyperliquid because the experience in some cases is even better than centralized exchanges. And for a long time, I've said in content many times, like we're looking for that DEX that can give you that centralized exchange-like experience, and I think it might be finally here. And there's a big opportunity in that even after the pump. I think this keeps going higher. So dips for this, for me, are an opportunity. That's why I managed to secure a bag at 7 cents after this pump. I didn't buy on the initial. I didn't buy at 4 cents. I know a lot of people got a big airdrop. I didn't get a big airdrop. I got a small airdrop because I didn't click the terms and conditions thing on a lot of my wallets. It's fine, is what it is. I know some people that got massive airdrops. I know some people that didn't get big airdrops. Hopefully some of you watched my original airdrop guide and got a decent airdrop. But either way, I still think there's an opportunity to buy this token liquid, and it is also like a hated rally. Why? Because a lot of people missed the airdrop. A lot of people that got the airdrop jeeted it as soon as they got airdropped, and as price goes higher, it's going to cause a lot of FOMOing back in. Similar to the dynamics that caused Solana to have such a massive push, right? It was kind of a hated token, a faded token in the market, and then it became consensus. Could a similar thing happen with Hyperliquid? It's a faded token, a hated token, certainly not by everyone, but by enough of the market to create that dynamic of people having to, buy back in higher. Let's quickly touch on 3 more topics: AI, Doge, and gaming. So on the AI front, I've gone really deep over the past few weeks, so I won't go too deep here. But when we do talk about utility, clearly AI is in the frame here to catch that bid. It's another sector that I think commands a lot of mindshare, especially from like normies. I think everyone would agree AI is the future. So people are looking for speculative avenues to access that trade, and crypto AI just makes a lot of sense from a liquid perspective, from the potential gains that you could make to actually position in. So that's something I'm always on the lookout for. Obviously, over the past few weeks, we've done an amazing job hitting 170% on mode. These numbers are way higher now, like 500% on EMP. This is when I did my last audit. 80% on DEAI. I think it's now 300% on PIN because I did this audit a day ago. 164% on Neural. 330% on Guru. This is all from the first call on MHC for each of these alts. So if you obviously do want the early alpha, come join MHC using the link in the description. Be a part of the amazing community we have. It's not just me. There's a bunch of traders in there. You can ask me questions in my dedicated questions channel. I go through there and I answer people with custom voice notes. You've got amazing support from Paradise. I had low time frame trader Fabian, who's been killing it. I'm only really showing my calls, but I could go through and show you some of the real bangers from some of the other traders in the group. And look, at the end of the day, like everyone's making money in a bull run. Like it doesn't make us a genius. You're probably making money, right? But what I really pride ourselves on and what I think you should strive to do in the market is outperformance. It's not about making money. It's about outperforming the rest of the market. And I can like say right now with 100% confidence, we are outperforming the market. So if you're serious about outperforming and taking your game to the next level, come join the Mars High Club, because I really don't think you're going to regret it, especially in the hottest period of the market now, where some of these trades can, do massive multiples very, very quickly. And, if you thought the monthly membership was expensive, just open one trade and see if it's expensive, because I know a lot of members, they're making their monthlies back like this, I had one guy pay for an annual subscription in one trade. He was like, yep, made my annual subscription, bang, in the Mars High Club for a year. So I think, our churn rate's quite low, and that's for a reason, because once you're in the group, it's pretty much no going back. The alpha there is just unparalleled, in my opinion. But going on from the AI topic and discussing maybe some of the coins just quickly that could be in line to run here. I think Grass can still do really well. Whereas DGM posted his Grass chart here. And you can see I think it's about to have a massive breakout. That can reprice really quickly. Some of the coins that I have even discussed recently, I think they have a lot more upside. You can look for pullbacks on a lot of these, but Mode and EMP I still am targeting higher. DEAI I'm still targeting higher. I think a lot of these coins haven't really even had their big runs yet. Like the last couple of weeks were like the warm-up period. And if you want to take some profits on the warm-up, sure, not a bad idea. But I think you'll see even bigger gains once AI gets that big rotation again. And it's not like memes. It hasn't really like chopped sideways and dissipated. It's still managing to catch like this rotationary bid whenever utility runs as well. So it's kind of that unique narrative that I think it's just going to be a mainstay throughout the rest of the cycle, and that's why I've been so bullish on it. Now let's talk about the Doge trade. My thesis is really simple. The Doge chart looks really good. This is like an ascending channel starting to form on Doge, which is actually bullish market structure. Like, could we see price action like this where Doge actually breaks up? I've got a theory here. I think the Doge breakout will mark the beginning of the next meme rotation. Now, as you can see on my chart, this may not actually happen till the beginning of 2025. Like you can see here, like maybe January, Doge will probably run first. I just think there's a couple elements here that are boding in Doge's favor. The main one being XRP having a huge, rotation, and a lot of people going on to centralized exchanges, a lot of normies coming back into the market. For them, there's this familiarity aspect from Doge from last cycle, and many of the Robinhood coins are the ones, going parabolic. It's where retail's coming back to. So it does make sense with Doge as the main Robinhood coin for a coin that's consolidating in like a bull flag / bullish descending channel to have that breakout eventually. And I think liquidity after the XRP move could definitely rotate into Doge. And that would be probably the next trigger for the next meme run. So I'm seeing a lot of people asking in my comments like, Mars, what's going to happen with memes? I think Doge is going to be the trigger. Pepe and Doge, they both actually look very good right now. I think they lead. And then I think you see a rotation into other memes. I don't think memes are done for the cycle. There's just still not enough liquidity in the market for everything to pump at once. It's not quite as aggressive as it was in 2021. So you're probably going to see periodic outperformance from certain things. Right now it's utility, RWA. That might last for a couple of weeks. Then you might see L1s run. Then Doge might run. Then that might trigger a meme run. And these things are going to rotate and ebb and flow. So it's never wise to just like totally fade something based on short-term performance. I think a better strategy is always to look many weeks and many months out. And when I look many months out this cycle, what are the sectors with the most opportunity? It's RWA, AI, and memes. And that's what I've still been saying the whole year, even since the start of the year. So nothing for me has changed. The only thing that's changed is how aggressively I'll position, take profits, and hold trades open. For example, because I think RWA is so strong right now, I haven't taken profits on CHEX, whereas usually I would have. I just think there's so much more upside with this current rotation. I haven't yet. Same as CPOOL, I've taken a little bit, but not much profits compared to maybe what I would on other sorts of coins. Like even Lucky, like the meme coin, right? I haven't taken profits on that. I've actually kept buying. So what changes is my execution, not my thesis, because my thesis is always like RWA, memes, AI. What I do, though, at any given time changes in terms of like my actual execution on that thesis. And I think that's good alpha for you that have similar coins that you like, but want to just tweak your positioning. I think your short-term bias just affects your propensity to take profits or hold a bit more. What do I mean by that? To give you a specific, CHEX is a good example. I'm not taking profits on that today because I have a short-term bias that RWA will keep outperforming. So that I've been bullish on that for months, but the way that I approach it changes based on my short-term bias, if that makes sense. Quickly, before we get into the final section, which is gaming, just want to have a quick discussion there. Tron is another coin that's pumped massively into new all-time highs. And another token I've spoken about for a while, which is SUNDOG, I think is going to be a big beneficiary of this. It's already started to run up a bit, but as Gold says here, he likes TRX, Sun, and SUNDOG as tokens that he likes to long on 15 to 20% dips. Don't overcomplicate the bull market. Buy decent-sized dips, size up, and take a chance. Like, I think any dips on SUNDOG right now, Sun to some extent, they're probably decent ones because you do have the Tron narrative, which is really strong, and Justin Sun, of course, is going to be a major figure this bull run. And I mean, Tron's running again. Do we see some of that capital going into the memes? I think so. I think it makes sense. And yeah, that's why I'm still holding a big chunk of SUNDOG, because I think there's still a lot of upside here for SUNDOG to do really, really well as the leading Tron meme. I'm just looking here. Spell's actually performing really well. Do you remember my Spell call a couple of weeks ago? I actually got rid of some of this too early, but the thesis on Spell was a couple of weeks ago. I said, look, you have this like unit bias right now on Coinbase, and Spell's the lowest listed token, I think, aside from Pepe on Coinbase, so like it'll get a bid. It's also the lowest market cap, and that's what happened. It got a bid. So sometimes you just gotta like left curve it. This cycle is like the cycle of left curving right now. And then gaming, I said I'd discuss gaming. One thing that I noticed was gaming has actually been the strongest performing narrative over the last week. So I definitely think there's an opportunity there. I mean, Superverse is doing really well, just broke its local high. I think this can keep going and keep repricing to the upside quite quickly. Beam has been a little bit slower, but that's another one of my big holdings, sitting at a 1.6 bill val. I think this can run to 10 bill in a gaming run. And then, of course, you can go down the risk curve a little bit. If you look at crypto gaming on CoinGecko, it's really simple. Just pick the ones that you like, that are lower on market cap, that you have conviction in, accumulate and hold. I mean, it's really that simple. So Prime's in one of them for me. If you scroll down the list even more, Alluvium's quite good. You've got some games like, Big Time, Treasure, which is the Arbitrum one. What else do you have here? Neural AI is like a bit of both AI and gaming, which is why I like it, because you have that dual narrative protection. Nakamoto Games, Vulcan Forge. Yeah, there are a few here which I think could be good looks if gaming picks up. I am researching some. I do think gaming will have a bigger run slightly later in the cycle, so it's starting to pick up. But I'm kind of holding out hope for this like really big gaming run. So I'm personally on the lookout right now actively for new gaming projects, and that's something that my researchers and I have been looking into very heavily. So if we do manage to find any new gaming coins, we're going to post them in the Mars High Club Alpha channel probably over the next couple of weeks, because yeah, we're going really deep into that right now as a potential next rotation. So keep your eye on the Alpha channel in the Mars High Club if you do want access to those as I position in them live. And then of course we'll also be covering them on YouTube slightly later when I do probably my full gaming portfolio. But I'm still positioning there because I think it's relatively early. I feel about gaming right now how I felt about AI like a couple of months ago. Like, utility's probably going to run for now, but it's definitely on my sights in terms of looking further into the horizon here. Cool, guys. Thank you for watching the show. Hopefully you learned something. You should have. It was a 40-odd minute show and pretty alpha-packed in my opinion. So good luck in the markets. It's alt season. Enjoy it. This is what we've been grinding for the past couple of years. So yeah, it feels amazing to finally be here. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be once again tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of your day. Links in the description to all of the resources, Mars High Club, etc. if you do want access. See you later. Peace.